There
What's
we
going
are.
on?
Oh, excited. We get to talk to Kenneth Drake tonight. That's cool.
I am super excited. I think it's going to be a great show. Kenneth's got a lot to offer. He's got 25 years of knowledge that I am definitely willing to sink my teeth into and just get all the information out of him that I can.
Absolutely. You ready? Ready for him?
I am. So everybody, if you've not seen the intro video, my guest tonight is the man, the myth, the medium, Mr. Kenneth Drake.
There he is.
You are. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Goodness, give yourselves a round of applause. You look incredible tonight. Thank
Kenneth,
you so much for having me. What an honor.
No, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
I tell you, I wouldn't miss this for the world. You've been a dear friend to me. In fact, if I may, since this is the
By all means.
show, have something for you both. This is a 2009 Chateau Petrus from Bordeaux, France, that a client gifted me, and I've waited for months for the perfect opportunity to open this bottle. And what better time than to raise a toast to All Access Television Network, the legendary Gwen Johns, and also Mr. Nathaniel Elwell, Paranormal Unveiled. Thank you so much for having me. Cheers to this network. Cheers to this exciting new chapter. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Cheers, brother. And that's how that's an expensive bottle.
Oh, yeah. And we've got people, on already. Morgan, of course.
So many beautiful people.
Hey, Morgan.
Love you.
And Thomas, the troublemaker, of course.
The legend himself.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm going to
So many
butcher
beautiful
this.
people. I love you all. Thank you.
There you
So
go.
good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
I am super stoked to have you on the show, Kenneth. I am honored to have you here as my inaugural guest for this show. My show is going to be a little bit different from a lot of the other podcasts you see. We're going to dive deep into different kinds of topics, and some will be controversial, some will be not. Your show is going to be a more lighthearted style conversation. I respect you. I have no reason to ask you anything kind of controversial, you know what I mean? So I want to start off the conversation by asking you, for people out there who don't know you, who is Kenneth Drake?
Such a loaded question. That in itself is controversial.
As far as what you do in the paranormal, how about that?
Yeah. So I thank you. So for me, this is going to be my 25th year doing this professionally on stages, and I got started very, very young. I was raised in the very rural South, and where you didn't talk about mediumship. Where I'm from, that was the devil's work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So didn't talk about that, and had these experiences that I always fought to get away from. I tried to drink it away. I tried to fight it. And something about it, it got more intense. It just kept coming and kept coming. And so what I started to realize a little early on is that if it's your calling, it's going to keep on calling. And so these terrifying encounters that I had when I was much, much younger, not only have they opened the door for me to have a life that I never would have dreamed of all those years ago, getting to meet so many beautiful people, such as all of these great people in the audience, all of you. But it's something that the older that I get, I'm starting to realize not only has the horror served a purpose, but that we all have our own ghost stories to share. And that's one thing, if I may say, that's one thing, Nathaniel, that I've always loved about you, is just the reality that you bring to this world, even in the paranormal community. I think the world of you, and you're doing incredible things.
And I think the world of you, and that's why I asked you to be my initial guest. So, funny backstory, because, one of the reasons that got me really hooked on Kenneth Drake, and it's a kind of an odd thing. So anyone watching the podcast can see that Kenneth is wearing sunglasses. My Mothman back here is wearing sunglasses. So when I was at a paranormal convention last year, the Salem Paranormal and Horror Convention, the first time I met Kenneth, larger than life personality, by the way, if you meet him in person. So don't run away if he just comes over and is like all happy giddy. Like he's an awesome guy. But before I went up on stage with Thomas Gormley and Adam Began, I told my girlfriend Morgan, if I get up there and I get nervous, give me hand signals, tell me to slow down. Because when I start talking and I get nervous, I talk really fast and I already have a lisp. So it turns into some kind of Southern accent mixed with a lisp that no one can understand. It's very similar to what you would hear in backwoods Louisiana. So I try to stray away from that. And the odd thing was I never really looked at Morgan at all. I was focused on why Kenneth was wearing these sunglasses in this dimly lit gym. And I think you were in the second row on the left side, if I'm not mistaken.
It's bonkers. It makes no sense. There's nothing rational or logical about it. I have to tell people, though, the reason I wear these, and when you asked me to wear these on the show, I thought I wouldn't do the show without these. But the reason for it is it's actually not a fashion choice or anything like that. The reason is it's to protect the audience in the front row from psychic ray beams that may shoot out of my eyeballs at any given moment. And who was it that said that? Was it Jim Jones? Remember when he said the sunglasses are to protect people from psychic power? It's actually not that. That's not the real reason. But I like telling people just because.
I actually almost had an opportunity when I was with my ex to buy a Jim Jones shot glass, like that was actually used at the site.
Wait a minute. I'm jealous. Is this real? Like this?
Yeah,
actually...
it was authentic. It was authentic, but she didn't want it in the house. So unfortunately,
that's valid. That's valid.
I mean, it is, but at the same standpoint, she knows what I'm into. So you know, it comes with the territory.
Right.
True.
So Kenneth, I gotta ask you a question, man, because there is a debate that I've heard that there is a difference between psychics and there's a difference between mediums, but I've also heard people refer to themselves as psychic mediums.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I interpret that is if someone calls themselves a psychic medium, it's because they are the specific medium for the psychic abilities to come out. As far as if someone puts a medium to a piece of paper, as far as a painter, the canvas is the medium, the painter is the muse, right? So is there really a difference between a psychic and a medium, or are they kind of intertwined?
Gwen, I love this guy. This guy's a legend.
I do too. Yep.
Just the way that you have I think the best way of even saying things, explaining things. One thing that of course, this is my thought on this, and it's maybe not the right answer, but something that I've always thought is I do believe that we're all psychic. I genuinely believe that. The word psychic, in fact, I know it's such a buzzword, such a taboo term many times, especially in the rural South when I was growing up. But that word psychic, it's actually from the original Koine Greek psychikos, meaning of the soul. So the language of the soul. So if we think about it from more of that, I think that philosophical aspect, we all have that language. It's speaking to us through our emotions, through our intellect. And so on that psychic level, we're always in some way interfacing with these different energies, whether it's going to the coffee shop, whether it's going to the store, wherever you're at, walking through the market. We're having these experiences where we're picking up on these things. And then with mediumship, it's more of a finely tuned craft within that, where you go and you're recognizing that it's not just the energy that you're, if we may say, interfacing with, but you're actually connecting with those who have passed on. But not only that, any other realm there.
Interesting.
So I do, personally, I do believe that every person watching, I believe that everyone has this ability to connect with this world. And I think that's, I think it's, not only has that philosophy changed me, I think the older that I get with this, but it's that reminder that this serves a purpose. These experiences that we're having, regardless of your background, regardless of where you've come from, regardless of your belief system, we're all having these experiences, and the spirit world, I believe, speaks a universal language. And part of the reason we're drawn to this world is because it's more than just a hobby. it's because the spirit world has been calling us. And something that I shared with something when I had the honor of being at Evansville HorrorCon just a few weeks ago was that we're not drawn to this world of the paranormal just because it's a hobby, or just because we're fans of horror films, or just because we like ghostly, spooky things. It may seem like that, but there's something else happening, and it's because we're being called into this world. And so when I say that spirit speaks a universal language, I really believe it's because we're being called in our own ways through these experiences. And so I believe there are people watching the broadcast tonight who've had some horrifying encounters of their own.
Oh, I definitely have myself, so I can attest to that. And I know me and you have had text message conversations through Facebook Messenger, where I told you I have bouts of precognition. Sometimes I see things before they happen while I'm asleep, and I don't believe myself to be any form of psychic whatsoever. But I think you're not wrong in the fact that everyone possibly maintains the energy to have this ability.
Mhm.
It's just recognizing it, harnessing it, and using it.
Mm-hmm. You've shared some things with me, if I may share,
Yes, by all
and it's
means.
just been blown my mind. In fact, also, just as a side note, for those of you watching, I don't know if you're aware of this, Nathaniel actually has one of the best paranormal libraries that I've ever seen.
I
Before.
love my library.
A little jealous, I must say.
I have read every single book in that library besides 4 as of this moment, because I've acquired a few more. And your book, hopefully, once it's released, we'll touch on that later.
Okay.
When
Yeah,
you're
thank
done,
you. Yeah.
Yes.
will be added.
Well, something else that that was, if I may, just brag on you both, because enough about me. I want to brag on you both. I mean, first of all, just I don't do this very often. You were asking, we were talking about that just before the show, and I was backstage. I don't do this very often, and the reason, honestly, is just because there aren't many people that I would do this for, and I think the world of you both. I mean that
Thank you.
sincerely from my heart, because you, and Nathaniel, one thing that I think it was something that I really needed, and I don't mind sharing. I don't mind letting the whole world know this. There was a photograph of something that
The
for me was
photo, yeah.
very unexplainable, and not many people that I in the world that I could have trusted with that, and you were, I mean, such a vital part in the discovery of that. Some things that were going on with a home séance that I was doing at the time in my own home, and I needed that. So, I mean, to even be here with 2 legends such as yourselves, I'm honored. I'm so honored.
I wouldn't consider myself a legend, brother. I just consider myself someone who does what I do
Me
because
either.
I love what I do.
Mm-hmm. And I think back to this whole psychic thing, it can be such a triggering word. I know that it can.
It can.
There's such a
Yeah.
connotation to it. I think societally, religiously, also just culturally.
Especially growing up where we grew up, in the Bible Belt, in Alabama. It's kind of like a shunned word. You really don't speak of it.
Mm. Well, that's true. And what a lot of people may not know is that I was raised very much in the religious world, to so much so to the point that I was in the process. I'd given up an art scholarship. I had a full art scholarship. My plan was to be an artist like my grandmother, and had these experiences in the paranormal world. Didn't know what to do with that. Changed my life, and in a way that I never would have imagined. So at my very early years, my plan was to go into seminary, and I was going to be the pastor of a church. In fact, was beginning to become the pastor of a church when some of these things just really began to overtake my life. And I share that because I want people to know that regardless of your background, regardless of your belief, what I realized then, it's easy to talk about angels. That's a fairly safe term. You can talk about prophecy, you can talk about visions, you can talk about dreams and dream interpretation, even messages from beyond. But when you start to say that these messages come from grandparents in the spirit world, or that your mom or your dad are watching, all of a sudden you've opened up Pandora's box.
It does. It does. And
It's become blasphemy. It's a heresy. So
yes.
I'm for 25 years I've gotten to live the life that 300 years ago would have gotten me burned at the stake. Quite frankly.
Absolutely.
All of us, everyone in
And
here. Yes.
And being
I'm in
and
good
being
company.
and being raised Southern Baptist as I was, right? Now I'm a Wiccan, I study the occult. But being raised Southern Baptist as I was, I never understood the understanding of Moses talked to a bush and the bush gave him instructions to do something, and yet the Baptist church says you can't talk to spirits. Was Moses not talking to a spirit when he talked to the bush?
Well, I love you already. I mean, this. I listen. I was trying not to bring up the younger seminarian in me
I will.
from when I was in seminary. You bring up something. For
I
me,
have no issues doing it
Thank-
whatsoever.
I wrestled with that for some of those early years in my late teens, early 20s. There's so many people now who think, well, the reason I do this is because I abandoned my faith or I somehow lost my faith. It's not the case. The
not.
faith has led me to this. This is
Yes.
the faith. This is the faith in practice. And when I say that to people, I don't mean that in the religious context or to push some religion, but when you're sharing that, I mean, it's so true. I mean, so much of particularly those ancient writings are very psychically inspired. We're talking about
Yes, they are.
people who have had out of body experiences. Not to get into the religion of it, but even the Apostle Paul is saying that he had so many out of body experiences he didn't even know when he was inside his own body. And
Correct.
and even with, if I may share something with you, you've inspired me to share
You
this.
share whatever you want, brother. This is
Well,
your show. I'm just the
no,
host.
Please.
no, it's your show. But
No, it's your show. You're the
that
guest.
you were talking about that, and as far as just the some of the just our beliefs, our own maybe our own religious upbringings. There's this great passage in it's actually in the book of Acts where the disciples come to Christ and they're saying, about prophecy. What are the times and the seasons? And in Acts 1:7, Christ in this story responds to them and says, it's not for you to know the times or the seasons in God's power, Acts 1:8, but you will receive power after that the Spirit has come upon you, and you will be witnesses. And that word witnesses in the original Greek is martas, meaning eyewitness, one who gives a testimony as an eyewitness. And what's interesting about this, that's part of why I always share with people, your ghost story matters. It matters what you've experienced. It matters that you can testify to these experiences. And here's where it gets even better. That word martyrs is also the root word of where we get the word martyr, someone who gives their life for something. And I feel the power of that right here in my office when I say that. Because
You
that
actually beat me.
once you see this world, you're going to give your whole life to it. There are people
Yes.
You
today
actually beat
who
me
had
to that.
experiences 30 years ago. They're still talking about the EVP they caught when they were a kid. They're still talking
Yep.
about the time they went. You see, does that make sense? And so
It
that's what I
does.
mean when I say the spirit world is calling us all along, regardless of our beliefs. And that's, if I have a message to share with anyone, that's really the message, is that when you have these encounters, you can feel like you're all alone in the world. But here's the thing,
Yes.
that testimony of, no, you're not. I've seen it too. And
Yep.
I think there are a lot of people watching tonight who've seen it as well.
That's
Oh,
why we cling
absolutely.
together. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, Kenneth, if you, before the Webster's Dictionary was written, right? Let's say you're writing the Webster's Dictionary. If you sat down and you had to define psychic, what would Kenneth Drake's definition of psychic be?
Mm. This is going to sound like such a strange answer, but
There's no strange answers. We're dealing with the paranormal. Remember, it's all pseudoscience.
true. I think it's everything. As strange or as outlandish as that might sound, I think it's everything. I think it's everywhere. I think it's everyone. I think there's this symbiotic cord that's connecting us. It's connecting everything. You may call it energy, you call it the higher power, anything that you in your own belief want to call that this realm of what we would call heaven, what some call heaven, that it's not really that far away. And used to, when I was doing tours, now I don't do mediumship tours anymore. Now I'm on the convention circuit doing conventions with beautiful people such as both of you. But when I was doing tours years ago,
because I ain't beautiful.
that guy, the man, the moth, the legend in the back.
Mhm.
But it would always be called these messages from heaven, and whatever that means to people in their own belief. That's not me pushing some ideology. That's just to say, hey, if you want to be a part of this, we want you to enjoy the show. And if you don't even believe this, enjoy the show. Have a drink with us. So you have an entertaining night. People always ask, and people even now ask, what you do, what you've done over the years, is it spirituality or is it entertainment? And I always say it's both. Quite frankly, it's both.
It is.
It's both.
It is.
Because we want people to enjoy the show. We want people to have a good experience. Feeling good itself is spiritual. But if you can come away with this questioning of maybe that experience that I had, maybe I'm not alone in the world. Maybe I'm not in this all alone. And something, and I find this in mediumship, I find this in séance, I find this even in readings whenever I have the chance to do readings now, whenever I'm able to fit that back into my schedule these days. Something happens with that simple belief. Now, I don't mean a religious ideology or philosophy. I mean a simple belief, a simple childlike belief of even the questioning of, could this be? Could it really be that we're not alone? As simple as that sounds, could it be that we're not alone? Could it be that we actually never really die? Could it be that there really is no death at all? Something about just that belief, that questioning. I've seen things in my life, even with my own eyes. I'm watching it happen and I can't believe what I'm seeing. It's not easy to believe. It's not always easy to believe. But here's the thing. If you can believe, it's like you've opened this doorway to the spirit world, and the spirits love that.
Yes.
They're drawn to that like moths to the flame. It's like they want to show off, and they become such an integral part of life that now it's not me having to do a séance to talk to spirits. I'm watching. People think that I'm exaggerating. I'm not. This is what the upcoming book is about. When this started in my life, I would sit there and I would watch doors open and close on their own, talking to spirits. I'm talking about full physical contact. So that's why, for me, I really think that it starts with this simple belief of even, can this be real? And I believe it is.
Right.
Yes.
And you actually said something within that monologue there. And for the record, if you've never seen Kenneth Drake on stage, this man has a stage presence that I only wish that I had.
No, you know
he
what?
gets up there.
I have to, may I interrupt you? Something that you just shared. Thank you for that, by the way. If I'm good, it just means I've done it for a long time. And
You're good.
Really, that's the only reason that I'm. If it's good, it's just because I've done it a long time and I'm old. But I told Nathaniel in Salem, I said, I'm glad I went on stage before you because you're a tough act to follow, and I mean that.
He is.
He is a tough act to follow, and I'm glad I had the stage before him.
I am humbled for the words, but with everything you were just saying in that monologue, you kind of sparked a thing in my mind. And so you would mention something, and I don't exactly remember what it was, but maybe it would click in your head because, well, I forget shit really quickly, itis. But do you believe in past lives as far as people being reincarnated into a body and having memories from hundreds of years ago that they should not have any reason nor ability to recall?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I do. I absolutely do. There was a time in my life when I probably could not have said that publicly, when I especially was under contract with networks in Los Angeles, networks in New York. I absolutely believe that. I think, and the reason for that is, and that's not something, an ideology that I would try to push on anyone, but the reason I do believe that is that this soul, if we call this soul, the mind, the will, the emotions, that essence of us, eternal.
Hang on, that's what it was. The instance of death. That's what it was. Okay.
I don't believe that that's something that can be confined to one lifetime. I believe the soul has many ways of expressing itself. Mediumship is just one of those ways. Psychic connections are one of those ways now. But I think that this is the way that my spirit guides years ago taught me this. And of course, I'm still learning. I don't have it all figured out. I always share with people, I'm still a student myself. After all these years, I'm still a student.
Yes, we all are.
But I think
25 years for you, 18 years for me, and I'm still learning something new every day.
Mm-hmm. You know, you may enjoy this, whenever there's a plane crash, I mean, not that you would enjoy the plane crash, but when the very first thing at the wreckage site, what's the very first thing they try to find? Is the little black box.
Yep.
So you can find out everything. It records every conversation, everything that happened down to the second. You know exactly what happened. I think of the soul as the onboard flight recorder. It's recorded every message, every interaction, every thought, every emotion. And so throughout every lifetime. And I do think that there are times now, like even with some of the experiences that you've been having, I sense that when you're having these experiences, so many of these things are from these voices from the past that you've encountered. And you being as open, and I think it's something that more people are becoming more susceptible to, more open to. But I think that there are some people who, by their very natures, just by being who they are, having the experiences that they've had, are a little naturally more open than.
I love that outlook, and exactly what you just worded once again, because I'm weird and it sparked something in my brain. Here's the thing: it's like I remember a plane crash that happened in the Everglades back in the late '90s, early 2000s. Right? How disrespectful to the spirits is it, and how much of a psychic impact do you think it would make if all they were concerned about was finding that little black box and not the people whose souls were lost on that plane? And how much of a psychic impact would that have on that environment?
You know, that's a great. I think of how many of the paranormal experiences that we have, or what we consider paranormal experiences, which really, I mean, if you think about it, depending on how philosophical you want to get, is it really even paranormal, or is it just?
It could be a time slip.
But yeah, this I think there's this element where, even in traumatic moments, I find in mediumship, and just the way that my strange psychotic.
Yeah, you're not psychotic. I find you completely normal.
Yeah, me too.
I think when we think of the spirit world, we think of it as, or we're sometimes conditioned or trained or made to believe that it's this world and the spirit world, this world, that world, here, there. When maybe in a different approach, when it's actually worlds within worlds, other times within other times. And of course, there's, that's just a thought of mine. But that being said, this energy, it's not static. Or when we talk about ghosts, it's not really this static type energy. It's moving. It's looking for connection points. Some of those connection points are in homes. Some of those connection points are in places where very traumatic experiences have happened. And I'm starting to realize more and more, just the older that I get, that sometimes the greatest connection point is our very own belief. It's our very own body. It's our very own connection that we're having, that we're feeling. When you're in an investigation, or you have something that someone shows you, or you see some evidence, and all of a sudden you feel the chills down your spine, the tingle, or you feel the pressure. You're in an investigation and you feel the pressure building up your neck. There's a reason for that. And I think it's because we're hardwired for spirit contact ourselves in this.
I really hope
that leave that behind.
I really hope at the Rock Down I experienced that in Broadhead. Because I've only had.
You will be there, right? You will be inside for 4 days, right? For
4 days. 4 days. I've only had one experience that ever sent chills like that up my spine out of 18 years of doing this. So I really hope that happens. But we're going to kind of move on from that at the current moment. So Kenneth, let me ask you, haunted objects, right? They're everywhere now. We can fucking buy them on eBay, excuse my language. But it's ridiculous the amount of people that claim that they have haunted objects. Here's my question to you. Do you think it's plausible that someone could have a regular object and tell a story so much over so much time that they are psychically imprinting that energy into that object, therefore giving that object the energy to, say, in a way, act out at times as far as movements and whatnot, as more of not a haunted object, but more of an egregore or a thought form that is imprinted within the object itself, not a spirit?
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that. 100% I believe that. Case in point, I don't believe this is something we've ever talked about. I don't even know that I've ever shared this publicly in all these years. But I was working with a client from Appalachia, and she was having this regarding it was regarding a romance. That's most of the questions that I get now are, is he coming back? Is he going to call me back? When am I going to see her again? So when someone
Okay, so
calls,
that's going to be my next text to you, by the way.
okay, let me know. Let me know. But someone who was dealing with this type of ritualistic magic had what she was referring to as a poppet, which is not different than a voodoo doll, but along the lines of the same premise. So
It's a similar premise, only it's not rooted in Vodun, which is typically Louisiana voodoo.
right,
It's a different type of a darker magic. Yeah, I'm familiar with the object.
right. And so you would see that more so in more in well, also very popular in England and more of the
Yes.
traditional type craft. So that was something that she said, I'm using this as a focal point of my intention. It's something to, I'm focused when I'm focusing, when I'm thinking, I'm putting my intention into this object. And she said to me on numerous occasions that the doll was moved without being moved, that it would move on its own. And she had numerous experiences with that. And in fact, she sent the puppet to me overnight for me to clear this object for her and then send it back. I do believe that that energy is transferable based on the intent, based on the intention.
Okay.
And in fact, I think that's for myself, that's something that I believe even with seance, even with readings, I think it's the intention that you're infusing with. It's through the intent. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to manifest? Regardless of your ritual, regardless of the tools, regardless of how you're doing it, what's the intention? And I think that's where the power is in that. I do believe it's transferable.
Okay, so yeah, because the main reason I'm asking that is like I've had people contact me about haunted objects, but they can't give me a background on it. And I'm like, well, if you can't give me a background, I really can't make an assessment. To be honest, I'm shooting in the dark. It's not like you're telling me it's a Villisca axe murder house back, all those years ago where I think it was like 8 people were killed. I mean, it's a fact that those 8 people were unalived in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the Sally house, right? Where there's a rumor of a girl named Sally that has existed since God knows when, but the story has been told so many times, but there's no factual history saying that Sally is there, but people still consistently say that they encounter this said spirit. That in a way could be a thought form imprinted on that house, the same as someone could imprint a thought form onto an object by retelling the story over and over and over again. It's a psychic imprintation, would it not be?
I believe so. I believe so. I think there's power even in the stories we tell. We were talking earlier about how I think it's so important that people share their ghost stories,
There's
regardless
power
Yes.
in words.
power
Yes.
in words, the power in the story we tell. And we can contextualize those stories. We can recontextualize those stories, make them fit any way we need to in our own lives. But at the end of the day, those stories are still there. Our soul is still absorbing. The body even is still absorbing that. The body stores this trauma, even from these traumatic experiences, to the point where it resurfaces psychically on the psychic level. And in fact, I will say this: one of the multiple cases of supposed hauntings or even cases involving what some would consider possession cases. The root of most of those was trauma.
Agreed.
Right.
It's not popular to say that in Paraland where we're from, but I believe
You
it
know
needs to
what?
be said that most of these stories involve, in some point, in some way, someone being hurt somewhere. And so that story is wanting to be told. And I think for myself
Yes.
included, that's why mediumship is so. And when I say mediumship, I'm not just talking about the entertainment side of things or being in theaters or on tour. I mean the philosophy of spiritualism. I consider myself a spiritualist. And so that's mediumship for me is part of my religious practice. But when I'm talking about that, I mean that the philosophy of the philosophy that this story needs to be told. The story itself has taken on a life all its own, where it's impressing people to tell the story when you go to these locations, or people are having these downloads, these impressions when they visit some of these homes. It's because the story itself is beckoning them in to tell them the story.
I,
And
I
I think
love
there's
that
something to
explanation.
that.
I love that explanation. That is
Yes.
absolutely astounding. This is why I wanted you on the show. Like that explanation was absolutely astounding.
I ramble, and it's the wine, so I blame this.
You know what? You can ramble all you want, brother. It's your show.
There
It
you
don't
go.
mean it is what it is. So can I ask you, without giving up too much details, because I know they call you the Hollywood psychic. I know you've got like 50,000 accredited readings under your belt. Has there ever been anyone who has ever contacted you for a reading that you just were starstruck? Like
Mm-hmm,
you were shocked that this person contacted you, and you were like,
Yeah.
"What? Has that ever happened to you?"
I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you how many times that's happened over the years. Uh, and fun fact that a lot of people may not know, and something I don't really get to share very much of. But even that being said, I always say, people say, "Are you a psychic from Hollywood?" No, I'm not from Hollywood. I'm from the very rural South. I'm a psychic for Hollywood, and
Right.
so that's what I share with people. And so
Completely different.
and so that I bring some of that, some of my own experience and my background, coming up from a very small town. I'm being a. I tell people I'm still in my heart of hearts. I'm still a nobody from a nowhere town, and people think that I'm joking when I say that, and I'm not. I was a nowhere. I was a nobody kid from a nowhere town when all of these experiences happened to me a long time ago. So I was recruited by psychic networks in the United States and Canada 25 years ago. If you think of I always tell people, in fact, I'm right.
25 years ago, so 25 years ago, that was back when the University of California was doing a PhD in parapsychology study.
It is. And I was talking to my publisher about this
A lot of people don't
morning.
even know that
Yeah,
exists.
it does. It does.
It does.
This morning I had a conversation with my publisher, and well, hopefully, something that I could share was that I think the best way to sum up my life professionally all these years. People have been to
Well,
those tours over the years.
not trying to cut you off, but if you don't think you can share it, don't share. I don't want
Oh
your
no!
publicist to get mad at you.
Oh no! You're fine. Thank you so much for thank you. No, it's fine. But I was sharing with my publisher this morning. I said the best way to describe my life for this book that's coming out is picture those late night psychic infomercials from the mid '90s. those fun psychic infomercials. It's basically I'm the
Miss
embodiment.
Cleo.
It's that. It's
Yes.
basically it. You know what I mean? So it's basically that. And
I love
so
it. I love it. You know what?
professionally, that's it. But
The
it's happened.
difference,
It's
the
more
difference,
times than I can count, and most of those readings begin by signing a non-disclosure agreement.
but the difference
Oh,
between you and Miss Cleo is simply this: you're not a fraud.
true.
I
You
don't
know,
care
a lot of
about
people.
calling people out. This is
Mm,
the whole point of my my podcast, Paranormal Unveiled. I'm going to call people out. That's what I do. But
mhm,
you're
mhm.
not a fraud, and I understand that you have to sign NDAs. So, which is why I said don't go into specifics. But was
Right.
there anyone who left you starstruck?
Mm, mm. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. And it's one of those things too where I think even beginning that all those years ago, um, I always share this with people. I never applied for those psychic networks. I was recruited in the
Interesting.
days, and so when these calls at the time started coming in, and then this person knew this person, and this person knew this person who introduced me to this person, and in those days, in those days during the what some would call the psychic entertainment boom, where you have the
Yeah.
late psychic infomercials, the whole paranormal world was different then. A lot of this wasn't really mainstream even then, even 25 years ago. There are people, of course, passionate about ghost hunting, but as far as it being mainstream and on television, it wasn't really, people were
It wasn't until the original Ghost Hunter series on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
right. That's right. And
And
that really,
I was actually supposed to be on Ghost Hunters Academy the first season. I got accepted to go on it. I turned it down because my ex-wife was pregnant, and I found it more pertinent for me to stay home with my kids or to help her with the kids,
Mhm.
Right.
instead of going on the show. And
That's commendable. That's commendable.
It
in
is.
an alternative, though, the world got Adam Berry. He took my spot. So I'm not going to
Is
complain
that
about that.
shots fired?
Me and Adam are good friends. I've investigated with Adam 4 times. He's a great dude. I love him to death, and it was my decision to walk away from it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. He's really one of the best. He's one of the best, and so
He is amazing. He actually has a sticker on his laptop from my son, because I took my son when he came here last year. I think it was like October 16th. He came to the Newport Opera House here in Newport, which, for the record, there is, Kenneth, I think you would love my town. There is not a single building downtown that does not have a historical marker dating before like 1897, I think.
Mm.
And
Wow.
Adam Berry was doing an investigation at the Newport Opera House. My son wanted to do it. My son brought him a sticker, which was, Adam's sexual orientation. That doesn't mean anything to me. But my son brought him a sticker that was a ghost that was a rainbow.
Oh, that's nice. Mm.
And Adam was like, "This is very thoughtful." He's like, "There's not many events that I go to that people bring me gifts."
Oh, that's great.
Really?
That's
So
great.
Adam
Yeah.
took it and stuck it on his travel laptop and told Jameson, "Every event that I go to, your sticker will be visible by everybody in the audience."
Wow. Wow.
That's
And then
awesome.
he was like, "Are you doing the ghost hunt tonight?" And Jameson said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he said, "I'm impressed." He was 7 at the time. He was like, "At 7 years old, you're gonna do this." He said, "Yes, sir." So we get into the auditorium, and he volunteers Jameson to hold the K2. So Jameson's holding the K2, and Adam's asking questions, and the K2, I think it was like 6 times, lights up to the max. And then Jameson looked at me. He said, "Daddy, my hand is cold. My arm is cold. This is freaking me out. I want to go." And I said, "Well, then, Jameson, if that's what your body's telling you, you trust it.
Right.
You hand that meter over to the person next to you, and we'll leave."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at 7 years old, I got to commend him. He lasted 15 minutes in a paranormal investigation in pitch black dark.
It's huge. That's a
That's
big deal. That's
yes.
a big deal. Yeah.
Paranormal prodigy. But
That's
we're gonna go off of that
It
because the
runs in
show's
the
not about
family.
me and
Cheers
my
to the whole
son.
family. Cheers
Yeah.
to that. But that's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's
we're
a big
gonna
deal.
go off of that though because the show's not about me. So I gotta ask you, Kenneth, have you ever met a person that personally asked you to do a reading for them, but they psychically blocked you to where you could not receive the information?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. Absolutely so. And it's one thing that I always share this with people. I haven't mastered this even now, and I don't know that I ever will in this life, but I'm working toward it. But there's this moment as you're receiving this information, this from what I would call the contact in spirit. And even when I'm teaching, which I don't get to do this very much now, being on the convention circuit, but even teaching this to students in mediumship development, there's this moment, and it's a very brief moment, very brief, but you'll learn to pick up on it. But there's this brief moment where, as you're making contact with what I would call the contact in the spirit world, all of these thousands and thousands and thousands, thousands and thousands of thoughts are flooding your mind. You have all of these pictures, all of these images, and sometimes a lot of that is just my own imagination, quite honestly. And sometimes as mediums we
I
don't
love the honesty,
admit
so
that.
thank you.
Sometimes as mediums we don't admit that. But a lot of what we're getting, if someone, and I always want to share with people that if someone says that they're 100%, I want to learn from that person. I do, because I'm not. And that's not to say that I'm even close to that. I think that there's this idea that when we come to psychic phenomena, that there are all these experts. And I don't believe that there are. And I'm learning more and more and realizing more and more that we're all learning. We're all students of this world. We're all students of this world together. But there are so many times when I have missed that. I've missed it. In fact, I can't get into this, but there are times when sometimes even in making decisions, even business decisions, even in my own personal life, I've let my own naivety get the best of me, or I didn't hear it clearly, or
I feel like as humans, brother, we all have that fault. You know, we all make those choices. There was something you said there, and I completely forgot. Like my memory sucks. So, but yeah. So I can tell you that. What was it that you said? That's really going to bother me because now I'm an OCD kind of guy. So now it's going to bother me that I
me
can't
too,
remember
me
what you
too.
said. But anyways, we're going to move forward from that just because I can't remember. So a very important question. Being in your position, have you ever done a reading for someone that you have discovered that they had a negative attachment? And if
Mm,
they had a negative attachment, how do you help them with it? But not only how do you help them with it, but how do you move forward if they refuse the help?
That's such a good question. You know, something that I'm realizing more and more and more, just the older that I get, is that it's not my job to save the world. I know it's a controversial statement.
Correct.
It's my job to do my part, and that's
Correct.
what I share with some of my students in mediumship development. Because when you're feeling this, and I don't just mean when it's a thought, I mean when it's overcoming your life, then you're going to be so tempted. Why did I not share that message? Why was I in the coffee shop and I didn't share that message with that woman whose father was screaming in my ear, tell her, tell her, tell her, and I didn't do it.
Yes.
It's going to ruin my whole day. Why? The moment you start to live that way, not only is this going to destroy you, and I mean that literally. I don't mean that as just some euphemism. I mean that literally. The moment you tap into that of I've got to do it all, I've got to give every message, every single experience I have, I've got to share it with the world. It's going to destroy you. And I wish that someone had told me that years ago, quite honestly. I wish that I had known years ago that it's important. Now, I know this is very controversial. May I share this? Because it's very, very controversial,
I agree with
Please.
that, Joe. Thank you.
especially in the paranormal community. I know it is.
Share it. You know what? Paranormal Unveiled. Share it.
Oh, there we go. Cheers to you, Nathaniel Elwell. Cheers to Paranormal
Cheers
Unveiled.
to you and thank you for being my inaugural guest.
Oh
I
my
feel
goodness,
like
I would not miss it
this
for the
hour
world.
has flown by. You have been an
I wouldn't
amazing
miss
guest.
it for the world. Part of what I think is missing sometimes, and it's not to throw stones at anyone because I'm learning myself. We don't talk about mental health the way that
We
we need
don't.
Yeah.
in the paranormal community. We don't talk about mental health the way that we should in the spiritual community because we're told to believe it away, think it away, pray it away. But the soul is storing all of this emotion, all of this emotion. And so one thing that I share with all of my even students, or I share with clients too, is that your belief in this is what's going to create your reality. Now, I know that may sound controversial. What you put into this is what you're going to get out. If you go
Yes.
into this work always looking for a fight, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
If you go into an investigation and you're ready to just do battle, and that's your intention in going, you're going to find it. And
Yep.
if you come into mediumship and you say, I'm going to let this take over my life, it's going to take over your life. And at the end of the day, through all of this, you need to have your boundaries in place. And that's one thing that I think years ago, when I was just coming into this, I was open to all of it. I didn't care what it was. If anything that wants to talk to me, here, use me, use me. I got myself into a lot of trouble that way. Now, that's not to say that, and I don't mean that in the context of light versus dark, or you could look at that in any philosophy that you'd like to. I mean, in the context of this is taking over my life, and I allowed that to happen. I share with people, but to answer your question, I think that those darker attachments, which are very real, so many times we, without even realizing it, we're propagating that because
I
we're
agree.
having our own emotional stability.
No,
And
I
one thing,
agree with
as controversial as that may seem, I'm going to go one step further. I tell every single client that I've ever had, and I say it now, there is, if you need it, there is nothing wrong with mixing medication with your meditation.
no,
Now,
there's not.
I say
You're
that to
right.
people every single day of my life. I'm on the phone sometimes from sunup till sundown. And I want people to know through all of this, yes, the spirit world is speaking. Yes, it's real. Yes, there are ghosts. Yes, all of this is happening. Through it all, too, you have a voice. And the best way for you to master your own mediumship and hear the voices of the spirit world, my friends, it's to learn to know your own voice. Because if you don't know that,
Exactly.
these other voices, it's not going to go very well.
And that's a lot of the issue that I have because, you know, I discussed with you about my precognition dreams.
Mhm.
My girlfriend swears to God that I have abilities, but I have so much going on up here that I can't physically focus
Mhm.
on those set abilities if I do have them. Which I think you're right. I think every person on this earth inherently has some form of a psychic ability that they just don't realize that they have.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just
I believe that.
recognizing it, doing the time to harness it,
Mhm.
and then enacting it to where it can be helpful.
Mhm. And I'll think about this too, my friend, and Gwen, for you too. I mean, for both of you,
Mhm.
I think and it's not only for the two of you, but I feel that power of this spirit right here in my office. But even for people that are watching right now, to even be thinking about these things. I mean, Gwen, think about to even have this desire to start this network.
Yep.
That was spirit. That was spirit leading you. You're a medium to pick up on that desire to start a
Well,
network. Think about that. Or
well,
Nathaniel,
I
my
was
having
I
this
CEO and
was
moment
my best
of
I
friend, yeah,
precognition.
she came to
Does that
me. Yeah.
I was
does that make
Yeah.
highly
sense?
resistant.
Mm. See,
Highly resistant.
See, I need to learn from
He
you
was
both. I need to
resistant.
take tips from you. Mhm. Mhm.
It took her
Well,
and Shane convincing me. Like I resisted it for a good at least a month and a half. At least
Yeah.
when, right?
he did. He did. And then he came and said, I give. Here you go.
I said, you're twisting my arm. I've got no other choice. Like
Yeah.
it's either I'm drawn and quartered or I do the podcast.
Yeah. And what
Yeah.
did I do to deserve even being the very first guest on this?
What you
I
did,
can
Kenneth, was being who you are. And you're
Yeah.
amazing. And I respect
thank
the
you.
fuck out of you is what you did.
Yeah.
Respect you.
I
Thank
was
you.
so excited. I
You.
said, really? Him?
You.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
it's John. And then
Like,
Nathaniel said that earlier. He said, you don't do this very much. And I said, there aren't many people out do it
yeah,
for.
I
Think
know
the
you
world
don't.
of you. Think
And
the world of you
let me
both. And I mean that with all of my heart. Thank you both for being in my
Thank
life.
no,
you.
thank
All
you.
these beautiful
And
people. I
so
love you.
I,
I love you. I love you too. Thank you. All these
I know
beautiful
we're
people that
running
are
up on
tuning
the
in.
hour. I know we're running up
Uh,
on the hour.
We can
So
go. We can go over. There's nothing after this tonight. We can go over.
I don't want to
Okay.
run too much over because I do have
Yeah.
to get up at 4:30 in the morning for work.
Yep.
But I did tell Kenneth thing that there is typically a question that's a multi-part question
Mhm.
that I want to ask at the end of every podcast that I do.
Yeah.
So everyone involved in the paranormal has a bucket list location. What would be your bucket list location?
Hmm. You know, people may think that I'm saying this just as a plug. I'm not, but I've never done Broadhead Manor with paranormal, where we're going to be for paranormal lockdown. That's been on my list for a long, long time, and I'm really looking forward to that. So
Let me see
for
what
all
I
of you
can.
that are watching, join us at Paranormal Rockdown this summer.
I cannot wait to see you at the Rock Dog. Wait, I just realized, Kenneth, we're going to be at 3 events together this year.
We are. We are. Speaking of which, may I respectfully give a shout out to our dear friends, the Shaman and the Showman, Charles
Yes, Thomas and
Thomas.
I think I love these guys. These guys are family to me. A lot of people don't know this, but the Shaman and the Showman, I have to give them all credit. They were responsible for bringing me out of retirement in 2022 when I had an evening mediumship Greater Boston. That was going to be it for me. After 20 years of touring, that was it. And so they were responsible for getting me back on the road. I love those guys. Love you guys.
They have 100% my full respect.
I would cross oceans of time to support those guys.
So the second part of that question, if you had to choose any person who has had any interaction in the paranormal, dead or alive, who are you choosing to bring to the location with you?
100% without question, Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Interesting.
Marilyn Monroe. The reason for that, and in fact, I'm hoping to share this in one of my upcoming books, but years ago, I was able to call what at the time was, when I was there, it was called the Thomas Jefferson in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, yep. Okay. Yep.
And years ago, decades before it was the Thomas Jefferson, it's called the Cabana Hotel. So the suite that I had, that I lived at for several years when I was in the South, 2 people lived on that floor in decades past, Ethel Merman and Marilyn Monroe. And so now at the time, I didn't know theirs. All I knew was, while I'm doing readings every day, why do I keep picking up on Marilyn Monroe? Why do I keep feeling this energy that seems like Marilyn? Well, it was. I didn't realize that she had actually lived, or when she would travel through the South, she would stay at what was then the historic Cabana Hotel. It's right there in the historic district in Birmingham, Alabama. And I mean, of course, it's so cliche to say, I just fell in love with her. I just fell in love.
I love it. That is a great answer. I honestly was expecting you to go with Harry Houdini.
Oh, okay. Oh, no,
that would be good.
Now, no, but there are 2 others that I would add to the list. All right, so this is kind of a glimpse into maybe the workings of my mind. Number 2 would be Judy Garland, and number 3 would be Joan Crawford. Now, the reason why
Good choices.
I have the utmost respect for people of that era who just left it all on the stage, who gave their entire lives to a stage, and for some reason
I love it.
I love that. I love it. That's how I'm planning on going. Whenever this time comes, I'm going on a stage. It's been part of my life.
Absolutely. All 3 are great, acceptable answers, in my opinion. And the last part to the question, so we have the bucket list. You have Broadhead. You're bringing Marilyn Monroe. Your psychic abilities aside, say you don't have them. What piece of equipment are you bringing with you, and why?
These sunglasses.
But why?
Oh, God. I feel naked without these.
That's a fair enough answer. I'll accept it.
It is.
So I see we got like just a few
go.
minutes left. I know we're running a little bit over. Kenneth, I told you we cut stuff pretty tight. So tell me, man, plug your stuff. Where can people find you? What events are you going to be at this year? I know you're going to be at Broadhead with me. You're going to be in Connecticut. You're going to be at the Salem of Paracon, if I'm not mistaken. But just plug your stuff, man. Where can people find you? Where? Just tell them what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I can't even tell everyone watching. Thank you so much. I can't even tell you what an honor this has been. I wouldn't miss this for the world. You're all beautiful.
I am honored to have you.
I was excited. Yes, thank you so much.
The honor is mine. Thank you. But coming up, we've got several things. Of course, we're, like you said, Nathaniel, we're going to be crossing paths multiple times this year.
Multiple.
We've got not only Paracon coming up, but in May, I actually have two events in May coming up. I'm going to be at my goodness. Let's see. I should have written this down. Forgive me. Coming up in May, I'm going to be.
All good.
Well, one of these actually cannot be announced yet. I can make this announcement on Friday, But I'm going to be back in Chicago, one of my favorite cities in the world, for an event. I can't share very much about that. But that same weekend, so it's going to be a whirlwind weekend, I'm going to be in Parsippany, New Jersey for Dark Force Music Fest. I'm going to be doing a presentation there on the occult, how the occult has influenced horror, the horror genre over the years.
Ooh.
And so everything from Rosemary's Baby to The Exorcist to that paranormal and occult theme in horror.
I love that subject.
So I do as well, and I can't wait to see all of my fellow horror fans and fellow fiends there.
Horror files, as we call us.
That absolutely. Then let's see what else. That's the week after that. I'm going to be in Chattanooga for ShutterCon, and ShutterCon is I'm so excited about. I'm going to be there both days, and ShutterCon is one of the first events of its kind, but it's where those in the industry that are over haunted attractions are joining forces with the horror entertainment industry to figure out how you can take your haunted attraction to the next level. So I'm going to be there with all of my horror fans, and
love it.
Of course, then after that we'll be in coming up. I have a few surprises coming up too that haven't been announced yet, but I can't wait to see all of you guys. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for being in my life all these years.
And you already know, as far as Gwen knows, if I get everything situated for my Paracon here in Newport, New Hampshire, you have a full invite with a vendor table on me.
Oh my goodness. I'm there. I would be honored. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I'm trying my best to get it worked out. We have the venue booked. It's just figuring out the financials and logistics. That's it.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'll be anytime, and this goes for both you and Gwen, you too. Anytime you need me, I'm just a call away.
Really, thank you so much. I'm getting you on our show too. So yeah.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. Thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Kenneth, let me tell you, I feel like this was an absolutely amazing inaugural episode, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart to come on and speak with me. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. It was a great show, and thank you so much for coming on.
Wouldn't miss it for the world, guys. All of you, thanks to the spirits, and thanks to you. I love you. Thank you all.
All right, you gonna take us out, Nate?
Yeah. So you guys can find Kenneth, various places. Connecticut Paracon. I think it's a Connecticut Paranormal. Like they changed the name so many times. I'm kind of confused on it.
And
but
true
I love
crime. Yeah.
Paranormal. Yeah, Gwen said it. And then just let's just do it. I'm sorry, like I got confused there for a second. Like my mind is like a dodo bird. But yeah, so Kenneth, thank you so much for coming on the show. I apologize that I completely botched the end of the show.
No, that's perfect. That was perfect. That was
happened, right?
That was perfect.
My first show, it is what it is. But yeah, so everyone go and follow Kenneth Drake on all of his social medias. Be sure to follow him. And, look up what he's doing. Go and meet him at these conventions, because at most of these conventions, you can meet me at Well. So just have a great night, everybody. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all, I'm going to take you down, okay?
Thank you.